Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for the review for The Real Housewives of New York. This is season 15, and it's episode 16, and this is the reunion part 1. Now, I heard from a content creator there's 3 parts to this reunion, and I thought Bravo mentioned there was only 2 parts, and hopefully there is only 2 parts because there really is not much going on with these ladies. And yeah. There definitely needs to be a cast shakeup. I'm just going to be all the way real with you on this one. But yeah, so this review shouldn't take too long, but I also am going to add a little bit more to it so that this is worth me recording. I probably should have just tacked this on to my Beverly Hills review, but I didn't think that was fair to Beverly Hills. But anyway, without further ado, though, let's go ahead and get into the episode. So one by one, the ladies come up. First, Jenna with what she has on, and girl, she has a robe on. I mean, child. I'll be honest with you, full transparency. Jenna should have been one and done. I'm just kind of, every time she talks, it just comes off very inauthentic. And yeah. I think she's one of the people that definitely does not need to come back. And just really the way she handles things with Bryn. She does get activated a little towards the end of this first part of the reunion, but it's still not enough for me wanting to have her on this show. Okay, so then after that, Raquel shows up. Raquel looks amazing. Then we have Uba, and Uba always looks flawless for the most part. And then we have Bryn. Yeah, anyway. Then we have Erin. Erin actually looks amazing, and she's glowing because, as we know, she's pregnant. Sai, and then Jessel. And then they kind of do the intros with Andy. And then we set the intentions, and Bryn mentions she mentions her intentions, saying that hopefully this reunion clears things up. It didn't. I'll just keep it real. It really didn't. Erin, I think she had an intention. I forgot what I think she said she just wants people to be able to be on the same page, the generic stuff. And then Uba's like, she's good to go. Whatever happens with it, happens with it. And honestly, that was the best response for me when it comes to all this, because child, they're dealing with a whole entire hot mess. So then the first segment, let's go into that. So the first segment was just kind of getting in Jenna's behind of why she just doesn't need to come back, to be honest with you. And I think this was kind of shady, and I feel like these questions were Andy questions because Andy just does not seem amused by Jenna. I think this whole entire second season with Jenna on it with the other reboot, it did her a disservice all the way through and through. Like, the allure of Jenna Lyons is just gone. But basically this first segment was about her and Cass, her invisible fiance that we've never seen. And to the point where Andy hasn't even talked to her either. And then also I guess allegedly Cass does not like the Housewives, so it makes it where it's even more challenging. And if most of Jenna's life is tied to this woman, we don't see her, she shouldn't be on the show. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say about that. Next. So then next we have Sai basically asked, she was asked, did she ever receive an apology from Pavitt? And Jessel finally said what all of us has been saying. Sai, I love you to death. You're actually one of the few people I want to stay on this show if they're going to do another shakeup. Because, child, there already is advertisement for casting for this show, which is not a good sign for this franchise at all. But, yeah, so Jessel brought in the point, look, you said some hurtful things to Pavitt, so I think you guys just need to have a come together moment where you guys both discuss what you did wrong there, and Pavitt will be more than willing to apologize. Now, I get both of them said some really hurtful things. Like, Sai basically alluded to Pavitt cheating on his wife whenever he goes out of town. And that's really messed up. And she never really did apologize for that, at least not to Pavitt. She apologized to Jessel, but not to Pavitt. And Pavitt is owed that because really the offense was him and not really Jessel. I mean, it's really both, but yeah. But Pavitt, I think he needs to apologize for going too far and mentioning, saying that she's bipolar, because that's wild. And also, too, you're calling the wrong person bipolar here. No, I'm kidding. I'm definitely kidding. Y'all already know my story. I have mental health in my family, so I don't think any of that's a joking manner, to be honest with you. Which is kind of the other reason why this reunion was interesting. It was more or less wanting to see how Bravo was going to handle things, but like I wasn't really watching this because I felt like I was going to be entertained. Because I really wasn't entertained. Honestly, it felt like while I was watching this reunion, I feel like I was watching a car crash. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to describe it. Because if I were to sum this all up, I feel like I could go segment to segment, but you know what? I'm not going to even do that. Because I feel like for the most part, if I go segment to segment, this is going to be a much longer video than it really needs to be. Overall, this part 1 reunion, and I feel like part 2 of the reunion, is the Brynn takedown. That's what it is. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. But at the same time, I think the major problem that I have with all this is that I wish one of the ladies or Andy or they had like some type of extra person on the reunion cast, reunion chair to kind of speak to mental health issues, because Brynn clearly has mental health issues. It is really obvious she has mental health issues. And it's the toxic kind where she hurts other people. And I don't want to diagnose her for anything. I feel like there's a couple things that could be going on, but she's clearly not okay. And as far as her taking ownership of anything that she's done so far, she really hasn't. That's kind of how the reunion went. She really took no ownership. She had an excuse for literally everything. Or if she said, I'm sorry, it felt like she was saying, I'm sorry to get people off her. Because one thing that I did not expect while I was watching this reunion is I did not expect Sai to come in as season 1 Sai. We didn't have the Zen Sai. And I think part of it was Uba said at the very beginning before the reunion started that she was going to be Zen Uba. She's not coming in as Uba Hot. And I'm glad she did that. Uba basically kept to herself and really showed empathy, all the things that makes a good person a good person. Even though she said some like kind of, she did say some out of turn things towards Brynn during the season. But at the end of the day, you knew she was doing it as a response and to get this woman off her back versus Brynn just instigating everything. And yeah, so that was kind of what was happening here a lot during this reunion. They do talk about Raquel and her mom. Raquel has not really talked to her mom since, for the most part, so nothing really moved forward with this. Yeah, let's go more into that. What I will say about this reunion, which was a good thing, because I'm trying to just judge it objectively and not based off the whole season of it being bad. But objectively, this was a pretty well done reunion with what they had. I'll just say that. And so when it comes to Raquel's storyline, which honestly was another interesting storyline because Raquel's one of the few people that was, good on this show. And we want her back. They talk more in depth about Raquel and her mom. Her mom still hasn't had the iPad set up. Her mom never came to New York. Like, really, the things that we were hoping for to happen when she went and saw her mom in Puerto Rico really didn't happen. And then they mentioned the icky thing that was disgusting, that Jenna had no answer for, about how Jenna was basically like, Jenna, when her mom was there, was being extra lesbian like towards her mom, around her mom, which it was kind of like uncomfortable. It was cringy. And this is coming from someone who's pansexual. So I don't have any problem with that, but it was giving soft porn, because she was literally soft porn. Like, she literally was like making out with everyone, like kissing everyone, like just extra, just flirty towards everyone. And it was really weird. And I feel like Brynn kind of instigated, so she kind of got skated like free on that. But Jenna ran with it, knowing that and they all know that Jessel's mom has a problem with that lifestyle. Like, that is literally the main reason why Jessel has not even seen her mom. So yeah, that was very problematic. And Sai, to her credit, she did call it out when it happened in the scene, because I saw the clip of it and she did call that out. And she is right, she did call that out. And then after that, then we went from that to Brynn and the Sai situation. And Brynn was trying to play victim, and Sai was in that ass the whole entire time. She was not even allowed to do it, because, again, for this reunion, last season Sai showed up. Not last season's reunion Sai. Last season Sai showed up. So she wasn't messing around. She's like, she was literally, to me, like Wanda Sykes. I am so sick and tired of your ish. Like, she was on that kind of time. And I was like, wow. To the point where, like I said, Uba didn't have to say anything. Sai was like literally handling it for her. And then after that, then we went from Sai getting on her to like Brynn versus Aaron. And Aaron was kind of getting at her too, honestly. Brynn really didn't have anything. She had nothing. She couldn't really fight back at all. And she tried it, but she couldn't. And then from there, and the reason why Aaron got on Brynn is because the way that Brynn was overly proportioning the Jeff Lewis interview, and then the whole thing with Jenna. Because basically the first segment was showing Brynn basically being a pot stirrer, causing issues with everybody. So that's kind of why everyone ended up getting on her behind. And it goes from that to Brynn is asking for backup from Jessel, and I forgot what it was that led to her asking for Jessel to verify if what she alluded to was basically, okay, so she was like, I don't think what I said was alluding to Jenna having money problems. And this is the argument of Aaron versus like Jenna and the Uber ride, which is a ridiculous argument, but this is what we're going with. And Jessel went for 1 second saying yes to no. And the side, like Sai and Aaron's like, see what I mean when it comes to Sai, and see what I mean when it comes to Jessel. And yeah, I will say this. So Jessel kind of flipped flop here, but I think also we know this. I mean, at least I've realized this very earlier on with Jessel. She's so anti-confrontational. So like when Brynn just kept pressing her about it, she felt. I feel like Jessel felt bullied into like changing her answer. I ain't gonna hold you. That's how it came off to me. But maybe I'm being biased. But anyway. So then from there, it goes back into Sai and Brynn getting at it, going back and forth. Because, again, Brynn's trying to play the victim about, see, this is why I don't like when everyone jokes about, like, me, like, sleeping with men, even though she's the one who puts this narrative out there all the time. And Sai was like, okay, maybe I did do that. And what? I was like, oh, my God. And then after that, then like really Brynn was like, okay, so what's your problem? Like, and she's like, you don't even know what I do for a living. She's like, you're right. None of us know what you do for a living. And Child, that's true. None of us knows what Bryn does for a living. And Bryn had a comeback, but it just didn't hit. And then I know out of nowhere, Andy's asking, so like, Sai, are you how's therapy going? She's like, oh, I'm not going right now. She only went for like 4 months. I was like, child, so you basically only went during the time of you being on the show. Got it. Honestly, you should just go after the show. And then when you're on the show, don't go on this, because this kind of let me know, like, dang, if Sai had this energy this season, like during the show versus waiting till the reunion, I maybe would have enjoyed the show more, because Sai just kind of mind her own business a little too much. She adjusted a little too much. She went from one extreme to the other. And this version of Sai that I saw at this reunion, I felt like this was a nice happy medium. And yeah, I want to see this Sai again. Anyway, so the segment that we go into is the Erin segment. She talks about so the things that come up is her mom having cancer, the Bitcoin stuff, her dad passing away, her pregnancy, and the abortion of it all. It was a pretty emotional segment when it comes to Erin. The only issue I feel like when it comes to Erin as a whole, she's not the most likable person on this cast, so it kind of landed flatly. I feel like if Erin was a little bit more likable, this would be interesting. Like, this segment would be more interesting, but unfortunately, she's kind of not. And then from there, we go into the Jessel, Uba, and Bryn situation, and really how Bryn was just picking on them too. They kind of no. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. This was talking about basically from the abortion stuff to the opposite of that, fertility and trying to basically have children. And so they go into Uba and her journey of having to get the fibroids moved and then trying to have a child with Oliver. We also find out from Uba that she did move to Connecticut. She doesn't even live in New York anymore. So I think this is safe to say, based off of this is Uba's last reunion, which I'm okay with it, because I don't think she's really fit for the show. Just because she gets way too invested. Especially when it comes to these women that you don't really, you're really getting to know your coworkers on this show, through the show, because you didn't really know these women before the show. So it is kind of odd that she's like, so passionate. We love it, but like, yeah, she needs to simmer it down by a lot. And honestly, based off of this past season, she has a lot to lose, so it's not worth staying on the show, especially if Bravo's going to allow people like Bryn to stay on the show. They do go into Bryn and what happened with her. It was pretty sad, honestly. And Bravo, I'm going to say this yet again. I'm not going to get into the details of what they said when they were talking about when it comes to Bryn, her essay of it all. But I feel like, Bravo, for you getting into the details like you did, there should have been a trigger warning at the beginning of this reunion. Again, I don't know why that's not a thing, but you really need to do the trigger warning, because this was pretty as someone who is also a survivor of SA, I was triggered. And I can even tell that Uba, I can't really tell. I feel like something happened with Uba. Actually, I know something happened with Uba just because of her background and her being from Sudan and stuff. Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but it's a very common thing that I feel like, unfortunately, if you did like a true statistic of how many women have dealt with essays to some form of nature, it'll be pretty high, high percentage. But so all the women get emotional, and even Uba is showing grace to Bryn when it comes to her opening up about it, because she does go a little bit more in depth about who it was and stuff like that. And that's kind of why I was like, there really should have been a trigger warning, because she did get into that. And then Bryn talks about her and Gideon. And yeah, it's not really believable. I don't really believe it. I'll be honest with you. But next. The other thing to kind of wrap up this segment that they talk about is Jessel and Pavit, and they are going to put a pause on their family planning until the toddlers get like older. And then they also did talk about how Pavit actually was apologetic after seeing the episode of them two going to therapy. And something tells me the husbands are not going to be in part two because I feel like because the women are speaking for the husbands a lot. And really, this season, really only two of the husbands were really on the show. Because Sai's husband wasn't really on the show. And then Uba and Jenna, we know what that's about. Mel was on the show for like Raquel. And then Abe was on the show and Pavit. That's pretty much it. But we didn't really see any interactions with the spouses or partners other than Mel and Abe. So that doesn't really, I don't know, that doesn't really give you much material for that. But anyway. So then next we talk about I guess we find out that Jessel is more active when it comes to her sex life with Pavit. I don't care. I know the women are trying to make it a thing, but no one cares. I don't really want to know this. I don't even want to envision it, to be honest with you. And then from there, they talk about Jessel and her glow up. And Jessel, girl, I'm sorry. I see why the couch and everybody were looking at you like you're crazy because she was explaining all the things that, has she done anything different to be looking the way she's looking? And her pause kind of came off as a period and not really a pause until Brynn called her out. And then Brynn was adding more sauce saying that she didn't pay for her services. And it's just like, Brynn. And see, this is why I'm kind of over it when it comes to watching this because it's like, Brynn doesn't need to be on the show. She needs to be somewhere else in a jacket, a straight jacket. I feel like that's where she needs to be at, and that's it. And I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm keeping it real because I feel like she just has no self-awareness when it comes to how she is. And it's quite alarming. Because she still even was going to add some extra sauce to something else here. It's like, Brynn, stop it. Like, no one wants this from you. Like, just stop. Actually, the only thing any of us wants from you is at this point to just get off our screen. But before you went so far the way you went, we wanted accountability from you, but you don't know nothing about that. So that's the problem. And then from there, we go from talking about what Jessel has gotten done. Again, I don't care. She looks good. That's all that matters. And really, we could talk about plastic surgery or not. It doesn't matter. It's a non-story. To then they were talking about the conversation that Sai, Aaron, and Brynn had about Jessel. And Jessel, pretty much for the remaining of this reunion, was going off on Brynn. That's pretty much what happened here. To the point where even Jenna stepped in towards the end because Brynn was still taking no accountability. She was going to try to say, I'm sorry, but she was saying, I'm sorry to cut her off because Jessel was still talking. It wasn't, I'm sorry because I really am sorry. And then afterwards, once Jessel stopped talking, she was doing the I'm sorry, but, and Jenna was not letting it go. And this is where Jenna got activated towards the very end. And the reason why Jessel's so upset is because that whole entire thing that they were talking about at the pool about the love of her life being a black man, that was a whole entire lie. It was two. So basically what happened was Brynn conflated two conversations into one. The conversation they were actually having that was off camera was her wildest hookups. And so her hookup apparently was probably with a black man. But the love of her life is Pavit. And Jessel was literally crying, going off because Pavit watched the show with her and Pavit questioned it briefly. I don't feel like Pavit questioned as much as what she's saying. I think she's just, making a point to let her know, like, girl, you could ruin someone's marriage and livelihood out of this. You're not married. I know you know nothing about that, but girl, why would you do that? And also, too, thing that's not being spoken about that really I feel like should be spoken about is this. It's not just really Jessel. I mean, it's not just really Brynn. I feel like all the ladies need to be a little bit more mindful of this as a whole when they're talking about other people's marriages, especially Jessel's. Like, Jessel's from another culture. And I don't know, I'm not educated enough to how they treat marriages and relationships and institutions within their culture. So I wouldn't be speaking about anyone's stuff, especially with that extra caveat there. But these women felt so comfortable to do that. Sai has apologized multiple times about it. Aaron, and this is a problem that I have also watching this reunion, because Brynn has been such the villain and been such the polarizing one. Erin's getting away scot-free when it comes to all her behavior so far in this part 1. I'm not going to hold you, which is quite annoying. But yeah, that was a reunion. It was a decent watch. It was not as bad as I thought it would be. I kind of figured it would be interesting just because of everything that transpired. Interesting, not necessarily good, but interesting. But I will say this, they did put it together nicely. And also all the women look amazing. This is probably like the best dressed reunion cast, minus Jenna. Like Jenna, I'm so sick of this ironic, I'm a fashion girly type thing. It's landing flat for me. But anyway, that does conclude the review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and I will see you next time. Bye.